About Gemara. Today's Daf is Daf Nun, and we are up to Daf Nun on the base, actually top of the page. We're talking about the concept of netzel, with the body decomposed, and there's some fluids coming out, and we gave a test to know whether the fluids are from the body itself, from the flesh of the body, or is it actually a saliva, mucus, and phlegm, and that kind of stuff. So we said that they used to boil it, and then let's see whether it congeals or not. And then we started to introduce a new concept called nitzik. Nitzik is that the flow. If you have a keli, and is only regarding the laws of tumah and tahara. Laws of kashrut are different. So if you have a keli in the bottom which is tumah and a keli at top which isn't, and you're pouring from the top keli into the bottom keli, do we say that the tumah passes, that the liquid is considered like a bridge, and the tumah passes upwards or not? So we said no, it does not pass upwards unless it's like honey, which is very thick. And even the honey, we said a certain kind of honey which is very thick. And Beishamai goes a step further. Beishamai says even not something like honey, even just a porridge, a mixture of split beans and beans that you cook, it's not as thick as honey. That also, if you're pouring it to a keli in the bottom, and the bottom keli is tummy, the top one remains tar. So now we're up to the Gemara, 2 lines on the top of the page. Boy, Rami Bachama has a question. According to the Chachamim, who say that honey, we do say the din nitzik and honey is exception, but there are 2 possible ways of understanding why it's an exception. Is it because the thickness? In other words, not like Beishamai, you said the reason is because it jumps back, but because of thickness, or is it because of reader? It means like long strings, that because there are long strings, so when you pull it back up, it will fall right back into the top keli. We call that seledus or riri. It jumps right back. So that therefore, since the top, when you're pouring out the honey, whatever you're pouring out on top, it's because it's as it's pouring down, it's stringy. So, and when you pull the top keli back, some of the stuff that left of the keli will jump right back into the keli. Therefore, there's a connection between the top and the bottom keli. Is that the vart, or the vart is because it's thick? Which one is it? In other words, do they agree with Beishamai in the principle that because seleda goes back, but they hold that it has to be something like honey, not just something like a porridge, or there's a totally different reason? It's because it's thick. I don't care if it jumps back or not. So, yes, nitzik is the nitzik by oichlin. For example, you took fats and you melted it down, and then you poured it into another keli. So is the nitzik or not? Me, I'm going to say, is the word because it's stringy, and then when you pull it back, it comes back. Bahani les buridi, and fats that you melted down. There's no riri. Rashi actually lives. It's not talking about fats melted down, not like the other Rishonim, but he says, let's say you made a mixture made out of lentils, or which is maybe a bit thicker than a porridge made out of beans. So, but there's no riri here, but it is thick. Because the thickness, there is thickness. Which one is it? Let me try to bring you an eye. You touch by coming here. It says chalib hames. If you have fats of a meish who sholem, in order to be metame, the food has to be the aggregate, has to be like a compound, has to be all together. What happened? You have fats of a meish who sholem that started out complete. It was a full kazayis, right? Then we hit tichai and you melted it down. And when you melt it down, say in a frying pan on the fire, it spreads everywhere. Now the din is tummy. If you melted it down, it's tummy. Why? Because it started out one lump piece, and then you spread out, and it's still always connected. So therefore, it's still a kazais, even though it's spread out a little bit. It's melted out liquidy. It took on liquid form. Now, what happened? What happens? Let's say there were parts of fats that there wasn't a complete zayis in one bunch, and then you melted it, it is toy. Now, when you melted it all joined together, it is toy. Why? Because we say chibur adam ein a chibur. If you don't want to put it together, it's not called a chibur. Even though in the laws of oil we learned before, if you touch a half a gazais and touch another half a gazais, your tamei, that's especially than my oil, that you combine different parts. When it comes to touching, it has to be one piece of kazais. It can't be half a kazais here and half a kazais there. You touch half a kazais, then you touch other half a kazais. It doesn't work. So if this kazais of chaylev was disparate, and even though they're joined together afterwards, you did it. It's a human intervention, and that's not called chibur. Chibur adam ain't a chibur. What do you call it? Now, the Isagadat, if you can tell me a nitzuk loichlin, if you can tell me what, that there's no nitzuk, that means the flow. is not really connected. Even if you started one lump of a kazayis chaylev, when you put it in the frying pan, it spreads everywhere, and then it joins again. Is even if it was complete and now it melted down. It's impossible when you melted it down that parts of it didn't remove itself from the original. If you and it's only connected by little streams. If you tell me that nitzuk, these little streams are not considered connecting, if there's no nitzuk by oichlin, then the parts of the perimeter of the frying pan is not really part anymore of the bulk of the chayla that was melted, because now you have little shoots all over the frying pan, and the only connection is a little thin stream. Exactly. If nitzuk is not oichlin, but there's no nitzuk by oichlin, we don't say that's a connection, it's not connected. We understood and maybe it's a special case. Maybe there is no nitzuk by Eichlin, but still, you're going to bahadi the martichle solik amud noile pum the mon of a kodesh. In other words, what happened was you made a very big fire. By making a very big fire, the entire kazayis chaylev all moved drawn to one side of the frying pan, and they never separated. They melted all together. No, but normally we have a small fire, the perimeter melts, and then slowly works its way towards the middle. So as it's melting, it moves away from the center, and we're asking therefore the only connection is in the perimeter is these little streams. But we're saying no, there's a massive fire here, and it melted the whole thing in one go. And because it melted the whole thing in one go, it moved to one side of the frying pan, and it's all together, never separated at all. That's a unique case. The East Kula Gabi Adodi, they're all together all the time. No raya one way or another. He says, okay, Toshma Beishamai says, it's on the top of the page. Ava Mikdash Agrisin Vishal Pool, he says also you pour out this porridge made out of beans or split beans or beans. When you pick the top keli up, it jumps back. So you see clearly from here. That the Beishamai says that's the reason. It seems that everyone agrees. Tanakam agrees with this svara. The only argument is, do we say only by honey, which mamish like is much thicker, is jumps back much more, or even something that's not so thick like this porridge? But it seems everybody agrees the word is because it jumps back. So by oichlin it doesn't jump back. There's no reading. Let's say the fats of oichlin doesn't jump back. So maybe taka there's no nitzuk.
Was taking a slice of pizza, and someone whose Tome says, "I did your hand."
Cheese is stringy.
And touches the other side of the pizza while the slice is only joined by the strings.
Exactly.
So the Shama will say,
"No, even the Chacham will agree that because there's big strings there that's taka stringy. The string goes from the bottom to the top. There, it's a bunch of beans pressed together, and they do separate a little bit, they connect a little bit. It's not the same thing. This cheese, I would say, is much more stringy than like the honey." Saying about what media. Hashem just me, just Raya, no Raya. But Shammai says his svara is because they let us really, but the Tanakama never gave us a reason. Maybe his reason because of thickness, and therefore, and therefore, if it's because of thickness, the fats that's melted down and then is also maybe it's a thick thing. It's a thick broth or something, or a thick gravy, and there is nitzuk, no Raya one way or another. We remember the question. Second one, further, you said that if the body decomposes and leaves dust, and it's the size of a ladleful, that's it. That's the shear to that a Nazir is has to take a haircut. So how much is that? Malay tarvid. How much is a ladleful? What size ladle? You have no idea. Kiski Malay pieces yad. You put it in the palm of your hand. The amount you can put in your palm of your hand. Malay chafna. Rabbi Yechon says Malay Chafna, which means including your fingers, not just the palm, but you have a Moshe Rabbeinu by Shchin, and he did Malay Chafnaim. The Machlekes from the Shainim, whether it's both hands, whether we have both hands or just one hand. But the Pashas, look at some of the Shainim Lashon, it sounds like one hand. But the argument is it just the palm or the entire hand? So now we learned. We understand right now, so with the fingers join your palm till the tip of your fingers, the nail. That's the area. Who says that? The entire hand. He passed the entire hand. El Chizki, who says what? That it's only the palm. Kiman Loikar who says it's the finger. Loikar who says the entire hand. Amri, so more answer which I don't really understand. If you look at your hand, Malay piece of the yad, the Malay kishes voice of Lamaila Chachiru. the palm and the fingers are the same. Look at your are the same size. Look at your hand. I don't think it's not my hand. Are not the same size. The palm is much bigger than the finger. Maybe every person is different. Maybe every person is different. If you have piano fingers, then they're the same size. Okay, general rule: the palm and the fingers are the same size, same length. Okay, so one answer.
Easier to cup your fingers, so you can feel more maybe in here.
Ah, that's what it is.
No, it's in the palm. It's not so deep. The fingers could be deeper.
So you can get more in, maybe. Okay, good. Taking about further, however, the gives another answer. All I've seen about the proper, sorry. Oh, so all the mayor says is from the tip of your fingers, I know which way to go. You decided the tip of the finger means go to your nails. Maybe if you hold your hand down, you put your hand down and you say from the end of your fingers lamaila, that means up to your wrist. Fakert. The what's the tip of your fingers? Maybe it means to the I don't know what the may means. Teku. Now, if teku normally means tishba yitaritz, then why would you say teku here? We'll say when the Chizur Mason will ask Meir himself what he meant. Now we'll ask Eliyahu. You ask Eliyahu what Meir meant. So from here's that that there's another meaning to the word teku, or some people are not good as the word teku, as you can see here. But if you are good as the word teku, then teku cannot mean tishba yitaritz.
It's the only place that it's out of place.
That's as far as I remember. So that's what we learned. When in order to have rekev that the body decomposed, we have to make sure that has not been corrupted, it's not adulterated, it's pure, it's only from the body. So how can we know that? So this is how it works. When do we say that a mace has a rekev? Mace shenikver odom. If the mace was buried naked, but odom shel shayish in a casket of marble. In other words, nothing can enter and nothing falls off from the sides. There's nothing else there but the body. Or on stones, because then we know for sure that whatever you find, any dust you find there is directly from the mace. But Nikva Biksusi is buried with his clothing. But Adon Shalates or in a wooden coffin. Or on bricks, that you cannot rely on the dust because there might be other things mixed in, other alien products mixed into the dust. Says the Gemara, and this is halacha Moshe Sinai. That has to be the whole idea of rekev is only halacha Moshe Sinai, so it has to be from the mace itself and no other mixtures there whatsoever. Rekev is only if there's a combination of the entire body, which is made up of what? Flesh, from the veins, the sinews, and everything else. Is the bones. You need to have all three components in it. It says it says rekev if there's only from the flesh is toy. Sounds like homina etzim, but if it came from the bones, tame just on its own. Says Gemara, no. Half a guy says, it seems like I've got like a bus, there's no flesh there. You're telling me that you need all three. It seems that even one, bones. Says the Gemara, this is how you should read it. Rekev becomes only from the flesh toy. Yes, you need bones and flesh. Says the Gemara, but you said you need a third component. You also need the gidim, the veins, the nerves, everything, all that. It's impossible to find flesh and bones of a human without, because what keeps them together? It's the gidim, the internal veins, the arteries, the sinews, the nerves, all that, tendons, all that keeps them together. If you have two masons buried next to each other, then it's as if each one has been corrupted because they have dust from another body. The word gagalm itself is not so clear. Some say gagalm just rolled. It's as if it rolled from one person to another person. That's how Rashi means. Others have different meanings what it means.
So then you don't know the size, so whatever measurement you need.
No, let's say you have the full share, but the thing is it's corrupted. That mace compared to this mace is like clothing. No, it's like clothing. It's like we just said before. Clothing that's a loch machine. It has to be from this mace itself. What are you talking about? Must be done. There's a question that says rekev habom beis mason tam mason. Clearly, if you have a rekev that came from two mason, it is tummy. Amar Rabba says shekavru zeh b'fnei atzmai v'zeh b'fnei atzmai.
Does that mean you need a slice of each?
No, each one had a half a kazais, but distinct. So when they formed their dust, they were clear what it was, and then you combine the two to make it a molay. It's not a kazais; it's malay tarvit. It's a what you learned before, a palmful or a handful. But the malay tarvit that case, that's a different story. That's all right. So so what happened was that the Taisa says it that the what do you call it? The maggots came and they there was a full share, but they ate up from each one a certain amount, and then since they started out correct and each one was a rekiv, then you put the two rekiv. Once it has a status of a rekiv, then you put the two together. But if the were buried next to each other, it never had the status of a rekiv. So what about so right, Rabbi Yechanan said, you cut off the hair. The cover. We learned that it says here that not all parts of a person are generate tumor. It has to be something that that means it's a part of the person that doesn't grow back. So, for example, hair of a person does grow back. So here a person is not metame, and it has to be something that was born with it. So teeth, for example, nobody's born with teeth; they come later into life. They're not metame. There's a big machlekes.
Carried around a bone of his son.
Okay, so the big
a tooth. Therefore, it wasn't the tongue.
Very good. There's a big machlekes in poskim. Chinuch brings down whether the law of kavura hinges on the laws of tumah. Something which generates tumah, you have to bury. If it doesn't generate tumah, you don't have to bury. So, for example, an etzem, a bone the size of a sa'id of a barley, generates tumah. What about a half a barley? Doesn't generate tumah, so you have to bury it. Because we learned Rabbi Yechanan of Hema Beis and Bracha, very good, Yemi. Rabbi Yechanan, who lost 10 children, walked around and made himself a necklace from a part of his last child, and he was menachem over everybody else. Look, I moved on in life, even though I lost my whole family, 10 children. So there's a machlekes showing you there whether it was a tooth or whether it was a bone, a half a barley. So if you learn it's a bone, half a barley, then clearly you hold that there's no mitzvah of kavura if it's less than a shear that generates tumah. Teeth, hair, and all those things not generate tumah. But if you hold that it was talking about that he walked around with a tooth, which means you hold, but a thing, a shear, half a barley, would taka have to be buried because it's not totally in the laws of tumah. But shaking teeth is extraneous to the person, as we just said. It's not something you're born with. So I think when it goes aside, if you, let's say, cut somebody's hair off, so it's definitely no longer part of the person, you buried it with them, it corrupts the record because it's no longer part of the person. So we learned over there, every part of the mace as the reason I just told you, we're born with it aside of the hair because it continues to grow back, but it's applied in the nails, it grows back. But that's only when it's detached. They should attach a person, cool to me, they're all tummy. Boy, Yechizkiah asks the question. Hair that is ready to be cut off. Now, what exactly, I always wondered, by a person, how do you decide when it's Saturday during the Galech? What, more than 30 days long? He likes long hair. When is the hair, what is the din that we say by a human being that the hair now is oimid legalech? Depends which way you are. If you're the very, very charedim, then it's a week old already. It's oimid legalech.
On the style also. Some
So
societies like different things.
I've never understood. So what side by a person?
Isn't there a gather in the Babel?
Yes, some friends tell you your hair is long.
It's time for you to have a haircut.
Yeah, but that's because they're doing you a favor. Because they know you want a haircut, they say it's time to take a haircut. But so I'm not sure what the rule is. How do you decide? But anyway, so if you have hair ready to be cut off, we have this question a number of times when you have anything with oimid levatzes. We say it's as if it's cut off already enough. It's anybody person. It's important to know guys, the nail that are ready to be cut off. What's it in? Me, we say, it's cut off already. Therefore, if you bury with a person, it's mixing up into the tumah and so on and so forth. The fact is part of the person, and therefore it's not considered extraneous to the person. Let's be patient with Rabbi Khan himself. Taima, he said, from the Gazas, because you cut it off. How like Gazas lie? He said clearly the reason is because you cut it off, right? You said before that you cut it off, you bury next to the person. It's ma'ar the record. It sounds like if he didn't cut it off, it's part of the person, no problem. Says no. That's what I'll tell you how you understand Rabbi Chana. Because if you cut it off, no question, how is a galgalim. Like you moved it in, something extraneous to thing, and it's no longer that. And if a nozos have to cut himself, cut and is the naziris. Abeloi gazas. If you didn't cut it off, I don't know. Me boy, have that very question. Boy, it's another question. The rekev habam and ekev, that comes from piata, from the soul, for the heel of your foot. What's it in there? Because they're this very, very thick skin, and there's no chayas there. There's no life there really. He's kik. I mean, rekev habam mekulimes. When you say rekev, only comes from the Thai person, and maybe including the heel as well. Avo the osim and ekev, but it comes from the from the heel itself, where there's no chayas at all. I do malishna. Any part of the person makes no difference.
How do you recognize that?
Let's say you see it right next to the foot, you're all piled up there. Let's say. I'm not so bad.
Perhaps you can tell by the cable, this is the end where the head goes, and this is the end where the foot goes. So what I want down
It
here
seems like it could easily get mixed up with anything. Anytime there's anything, clothing, any.
You're right. So we're talking about a case. We already explained. We're talking about naked body and marble. That's what we're talking about. And you see right next to the heel, underneath the heel, that's the dust.
that area where the foot should be.
Yeah. We learned. It says rekev that we just learned before. That the rekev comes to the Mason is tamei, and we said that that each one produced a half of a tarvid, a half of the ladle, and then you combine the two together. Now, these it's exact shear. We're talking about an exact shear. So if it's exact shear, even though it's coming from the entire body, but you also include the heel. So if you take the heel out, there's no longer a shear. If you tell me that part that comes from the heel is not included, so maybe over here that maybe there's part of the heel inside this mixture. You tell me it's exactly malay tarbit, half of a malay tarbit from this body and half from this body. So if you take even the minutest amount, you take it away because it comes from the heel. You don't no longer have the right shear. So it seems clear to me. It doesn't matter what part of the body it comes from. We don't really care. You must know. It was like this. If it's the entire mace over there, the entire mace, body is decomposing, and even the part next to the foot, or there's part of the foot in the heel, it doesn't matter. It's part of the body. Our question is the only part of the body that decomposes is right around the heel area. What happens then? Teiku. Boy, let me ask another question. A woman passed away, and inside was a fetus. Is the fetus considered extraneous to the woman, and therefore corrupting the Malay Tarvid, or it's part of the woman? Maybe we have a thing of uber yedachim, so that we take it also to the laws of tumah. Having galgalim is it considered like extraneous to the woman? On the one hand, since we say, according to some opinions, that that the uber is part of the mother, and therefore it's part of her. It's not like something that came from outside. Eventually, the purpose of this fetus is going to leave the body, as if already it's separated, and therefore it's corrupting. Yeah. If you're going to tell me that Uber, the Sefer, we want to know how Uber and the mother is like two mason. We just said before, two mason buried next to each other. Think about it quickly. Uber, the Sefer, lots of maybe the problem is because they're separate. What about Shichvas Zera b'Meya Isha? What about the stage before? The Shichvas Zera inside a woman, and the night before she passed away, and it goes for 3 days, whatever it says. So the shikh was inside. Now, do we say that a child was informed, and therefore it's never going to leave the body? The whole vart is that tomorrow it's going to leave the woman's body, so it's separate. Here, the shikh is never going to leave a body, so therefore it stays there. It's not going to form into a child, so therefore it's considered kigu for dummy, and it's not considered kalgalim. It's not part of her. It's an outside thing inside her life. Not Papa has a question. What about the excrement that you have inside you. And this is, Tasha said, we also wanted to ask a question regarding males, because the previous question is only regarding females, and we wanted to, equality, include everybody. So period, which applies to everybody. Do we say? Sorry? That's included in this person. Because what happens to food when it's inside you? It's no longer food. It turns into this. Do we say that a person cannot exist without food? Therefore, this is who you are. Yeah, exactly. So interesting. But that's exactly what I'm saying. The Ramban says, all these food you have to be, you're not allowed to eat it because you become what you eat. Exactly. So here, right here. Since chayusa, this becomes your chayis. It comes from the world. What about your skin? What about? Sorry.
If the person gets a cut and spreads the skin, it protects itself, right? So shouldn't be excluded all things that go back. Nails and
have to look at it because then how is it ever possible to have records? More or less soon. Okay, so we'll stop over here and we'll continue. We're going to